Hello, this is Professor Scott Murphy from the University of Kansas, and it is March 4th, 2013. Just yesterday, I traveled to the Underground Salt Museum in Hutchinson, Kansas. Had a great time. And this morning, I just lectured on tonal structures in sonatiform developments. And I recognize there's a fairly decent analogy between the two. So first of all, let me share with you the basics about my Salt Museum experience. So here we are on the flat Kansas prairie outside of Hutchinson. You descend a shaft 650 feet into the salt mine. And when you arrive at the bottom and step out into this main corridor, it's a pretty impressive sight. But you really only have one way to go. So you walk down that corridor. And from here you can take sort of a horseshoe path, what they call it, through many different exhibits and other interesting treasures. And that brings you back around to the main corridor where there's a gift shop. And off the horseshoe you can take a train ride through other parts of the mine. And near the gift shop you can take a tram ride as well. So I got to thinking how this is similar in some ways to the tonal structure of a sonatiform development. We're actually taking it all the way back to the beginning of a sonatiform movement. So the exposition starts you off in the main key, what we'll call the tonic key. And from here there's really only one way to go. So I'm speaking, by the way, solely of major mode sonatiform movements before, Beethoven gets a hold of it in particular. So starting off on 1, there's really much one way to go, and that's going to be going toward 5. Taking that shaft to 5, and we get to 5, and 5 is quite a goal in of itself, right? So that's the end of the exposition. But from here, we can take a tour, explore different keys. Most people do try to make it to the gift shop, so I think of the gift shop as akin to the 6th key, which is a fairly common key to visit during your development section, but other keys are possible as well, all closely related, of course. Those are the typically chosen keys. Now, the one thing about this analogy that doesn't work really great is that I do like to think about the modulation from 1 to 5 during an exposition as a heightening of tension. So perhaps if we were to take this and flip it over, so instead of a salt mine, we think cloud mine, think of Return of the Jedi, for example. So now we actually heighten tension when we move toward 5. But when we return to 5 at the end of the development, first of all, it's not a sense of arriving in the key, it's more of returning to 5 as a harmony, and then letting that essentially fall back to being in tonic as well as on tonic for the recapitulation. So let's turn those Roman numerals over so we can see that. So the exposition, essentially taking us from the key of 1 to the key of 5, and arriving there being an important goal for the exposition. But after we take our developmental tour, the recapitulation returns to 5, of course, but 5 now as chord, not as key, which matches pretty well the idea that when we're done with our tour, we return to the same place from where we began. But there's the sense, not so much that that's an arrival point, but that's simply a vehicle that will return us back to the surface, return us back to tonic. So there's my analogy. I hope you enjoyed it.